Networking and marketing made simple is for you, the business owner who has a product, a service, or a message that you believe in. My name is Scott Aaron, and each week we'll take a behind-the-scenes look into the real-world marketing and networking tactics and strategies for getting what you have in front of you to a lot more people. Thanks for spending time with me, and now let's get started. So, Mike, welcome to today's episode. Super stoked to have you here today. I'm excited for my audience to hear this. And for anyone that does follow Mike on social, he's Mike C-Roc. No K, just a C.
That's
and Mike and I connected on LinkedIn. We're both podcasters. We're both authors and speakers. And, you know, what I love about Mike is, the mission that he's on to impact people around him, but also the fact that, you know, we do have this limitless life that we can create for ourselves, but you kind of have to go through and grow through those certain aspects of life as we're going through it to get on that other side. So, Mike, number one, welcome to the episode. Number two, for my audience that is not familiar with you and your book and your podcast, tell the audience a little bit about you, what you're doing right now, but most importantly, what has set you down this path of entrepreneurship, but also just limitless living?
Well, first of all, I always like to start the shows that I go on to with gratitude and thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I'm humbled to be able to share a story with an audience of anyone. And, just one person to a million. And I want to start off by saying that, Scott, but thanks for having me. Thanks for coming on my show before as well. And, I'm on a mission to build people. I'm on a mission to help people that are getting stuck in setbacks and paralyzed by setbacks and help them convert that into rocket fuel for their future. And, I came on this mission. I'm in the mortgage industry for, 15 years. And I started in real estate prior to that. I was in sales prior to that. But I've always been building people. Every day I wake up, found myself just building people and helping people. And I think it stems from coming up and growing up around a lot of broken people and broken-minded people. And I think we all have flaws, but some have more extreme than others. And growing up, I don't remember my parents ever together. I actually grew up in a broken home, doing the custody battle thing, the every other weekend thing, the child support battles, and hearing all this garbage that goes along with that. And I also dealt with a lot of step-parent issues, like from step-parents and spite and jealousy and all this stuff. And a lot of it was taken out on me and the other kids that were in the family. And, growing up with all that conflict, you try to figure out, like, what's going on? Why is this happening? Is it because of something I did? Am I the cause of it? What can I do to change it? Like, a lot of these things start to go through your head as a young kid. Although I did think it was normal, though. I thought it was ordinary. Like the regular family that you see on TV with everybody's happy together. Like that was like a fantasy for me. I thought that was fake. So, when I was 8 to 11, I lived with my father right outside of Philly, actually. I know that's where you're from, up that way. And he's a mason, block bricklayer. He used to pour concrete and all that. He had a real successful business and big forearms, rough hands. I always looked up to him for how hard of a worker he was. And he used to carry this wad of $100 bills in his pocket. And he used to flash it around, had a rubber band around it. And he used to show it to me. And I was like, man, I thought that was the coolest thing. Well, when I was 11, I decided, after dealing with a lot of emotional and psychological abuse in that house, I decided I had enough and I needed to get out of that environment. It wasn't conducive to happiness. I didn't know the word conducive back then. As mature as I was for 11 years old, my vocabulary wasn't there yet, but I knew I needed to do something. So I had my mom file court papers, and she told me if I do this for you, you need to stick to your guns. You need to stick with your decision. Because when you believe in something, Mikey, they used to call me Mikey back then. When you believe in something, people will try to talk you out of it. And the reason is because they need to justify their position in life, or they'll have their own agenda. And whoever's is more powerful will win. So you need to stick to your guns. And so I remember her telling me that. So I came home from school one day, and I didn't share that information with my dad or stepmom, and the bomb was waiting to drop. And I'm sitting there anxious every day. I come home from school one day, and he gets the papers, and I remember him saying, go to your room. And I walked back to my room, sat on my bed for about 5 minutes, which felt like 5 hours. And he finally comes back and he says, it says here you want to move back with your mom. You know, they don't have it that well there. You know, we got everything you need here. And they don't have any money, you know, like what are you going to do there? And I'm sure his pride was hurt and he was disappointed possibly. But at that moment I stuck to my guns and said, no, I really don't want to have any more discussion. I made my mind up. That's where I want to go. And at that moment he took that wad of $100 bills out, takes one off, peels it off, crumples it up and throws it at me and says, you're going to need this then when you're living on the streets with your mother one day. And at 11 years old, man, you know, I'm not telling you this to say woe is me and feel bad for me by any means, trust me. Because I have a method that I've become aware of that I've been living off for 30 years. And that method is to turn setbacks into rocket fuel for your future. Like nothing is bad. If you can remove all the bad and then also use all the bad that used to be bad for fuel, you're unstoppable. So when I was 11 years old, I had this thing in my head. My mom had always told me that I was a leader. And she always said, stick to your guns. So two things right there, stubbornness and leadership. And I don't think stubborn is a bad word, as long as you're stubborn on the right things. And so I stuck to my guns there. One, I said, I'm not going to let you write my story, man. You're not determining my future. One. And number two, I thought this was ordinary. So I'm thinking, man, there's got to be other people that have been given up on. There's got to be other people that have like their hero throwing the towel on them. And I'm going to do whatever I can to show people you can come from something like this and then still thrive. And so the only thing I knew at that time to do was be a leader and be a role model. So I just did everything I could to be a hustler, school, work, sports. I just tried to be the best I could, man. And about 2 years ago, man, I became aware that, man, what the heck am I driving on? There's some kind of fire in me. And it all stemmed from the fact that I was trying to prove my dad wrong. I always think that his eyes are on me. Whenever I feel down or things are getting tough, I'm like, no, he ain't winning. Let's go. And I decided to bottle that and figure out exactly how to articulate that. And the best thing to tell you, man, Scott, this is how it works. In life, the only thing that stops you, first of all, is it's not the encouraging people. It's not the wins. It's not the successes. It's the discouraging people, the failures, the setbacks, the difficulties, the letdowns. All that stuff is the things that stop you. Now, if you can remove those things, eliminate them, then you should be able to get back to original form. That's resiliency. Resiliency is not a strong enough word, though, for this message. A strong enough word is to turn all those things into rocket fuel, being able to convert those things and actually propel past your original form. And that's what I'm all about. Proactively teaching people that anything that comes your way is fuel for you. So mentally you start to become, hey man, I'm unstoppable. I'm indestructible. Like there's not much anything that can stop me now, as long as I convert. And that's what the message is. And that's where I come from. And that's a little background about your boy C-Roc.
I love that. And, well, first I just have to honor you for being so open and vulnerable. Something that we truly relate upon is everyone sees the glory of what people are doing, but they deserve to know the story of how that person got there. And I think you did an incredible job of articulating that and painting a picture. I could, see myself sitting on the bed with you while that exchange was going on with your father. So before we get into, all the amazing things that have been going on since getting into sales and real estate and your mortgage brokerage, which now having 40 team members and all these other things that you're doing. After, your father succumbed to knowing that you were going to be leaving Philadelphia and moving in with your mom, when you finally did make that change and that decision, emotionally, mentally, how did things feel for you when you did move back with your mom full time, clearing out that negative energy of being in that other household?
Well, so first of all, remember, I had to stay in that house because court doesn't work really fast. And so that was pretty awkward. And, looking back, man, though, I'm so glad I went through it because like anything that comes my way now in business or people issues or anything, like it's like, man, come on, what are you made of? Look what the stuff you've been through, right? That's why I say, what are you made of all the time? That's my podcast name. It's because look at all the stuff you've been through, dude. You got this. It's nothing compared to that. Like nobody can understand that. And there's people that have had it worse. Don't get me wrong. Cause I talked to a guy just the other day that grew up in an orphanage. Right. But the fact of the matter is that whatever we come from, like nobody else like has that same exact experience. And so for me, I just roll through things, man. And I just understand that it's all fuel. And so afterwards, when I moved there, I didn't get away from it actually, because, you know, and by the way, I tell this story because I don't know everything that went on. Uh, I don't, I'm not trying to bash anybody with this stuff, but I'm just telling you my story and what happened to me and you know, my perception of everything. But when I left, I guess my dad assumed that after that summer, I was going to come back and start school, but he didn't reach out to me until after school had already started. And he's like, "Hey man, school started. When are you coming back?" And here I had already signed up for school and started playing junior league football where I was living. And I'm like, I ain't coming back. And after that happened though, from the next years of my life, I would get things in the mail, like letters and pictures of trips that they would take. And it was in a situation, it was kind of it was kind of a spiteful tone to it. So they did it in a fashion where they could say, well, we were just trying to keep up and get you caught up with what's going on up here. But it was not done that way. And anybody that knows it and saw it would be like, what the heck? That's kind of sick. You know, all the vacations that they were going on and then the comments on every back of the picture, you know, it was just all bullshit, man. And the other thing was that I'm going to get into more detail in my book, but I don't want to go too deep here because I want people to get the book, one, but not only that, it's, you know, there's some people involved, like brothers and sisters, and I got to be concerned a little bit with that. And I don't want to go much further with that, but it was tough, man. But again, I'm not saying that as a victim. I'm saying like, I've been through all, man. Look where I am today. And now I don't know if I would be here today if I didn't go through that. So, you know, you need fuel to do things in life. You need fuel to get higher places. And that's my fuel, man. I love it. I need it. And anytime somebody has something more for me, man, bring it. I love it.
No, I'm the same way. And, you know, when I was on your show, I shared my story of, you know, my father being incarcerated for a couple of years and having to take on the burden of running the family business with, you know, at 19 years old, not know having to do that and having, you know, to let go of the resentment and the anger. And,
Yeah.
you know, again, things eventually were repaired. They took a long time, but they were repaired. And I think just like you said, that there's people that have been through similar things that we've been through. There's people that have been through lesser things that we've been through and worse things that we've been through. But I always tell people when you go through something and you come out on the other side of it and you're still okay, you're still living, you're still breathing, you can still see, you can still feel and touch and all of those things, you're made of something different at that point. And resiliency is again, I'm with you, you know, having that rocket fuel. You know, for me, I was a doormat for a lot of my life, in friendships and relationships. And I was the nice guy, and I got taken advantage of a lot even in business too. And I was afraid to speak up and share my voice and my own feelings. But, you know, that's when I was younger, and I learned from those mistakes. And I think the message that the listeners need to take away from this is that you're not alone. Anyone that feels like you've gone through something as a kid, as a teenager, as a young adult, as a grown adult, you're not by yourself. And there's the old adage of, instead of being the victim, be the victor. And if you come out on that other end and you backtrack and you think about the things that you did to get through all of that, I always tell people, you're building your armor up that entire way. And you know that if you can get through that, there is nothing, just like you, if something pops up, it's no big deal anymore, because overcoming certain things in your life prepare you for those other things that inevitably will happen. And if you're listening to this, and if you think you are in the quote unquote clear right now, nothing's ever going to come up, there's going to be no more roadblocks or potholes or U-turns or detours, you're sadly mistaken. But what I'll tell you is, if you pay attention to those things that have previously happened, and as Mike said, you use that as rocket fuel to blow past those things when they do arrive, it's going to keep you on that path to living your best life. So love everything that you said. So let's pivot now. You're getting into sales. You're getting into entrepreneurship. What was it about entrepreneurship that that really spoke to you, that said, you know what, this is the path that I want to go down, not only for the living that I want to create, but the life that I want to create?
The leadership thing. So when I was young, before I even knew the word leadership or what that meant, my mom was imprinting that into my mind. Hey, you're an influence, man. You're a leader. Wow, you're a leader. And she kept saying that to me, and until I started believing it. And I think in life, you'll hear people say, man, I need to see it to believe it. Well, guess what, pal? You're going to be limited on what you see, because you only see what you believe. And so I started to believe what you should do is you should believe or see it in your mind and believe that it can happen first. And then everything that happens from there, you start to see your actions, your thoughts, your words start to go towards what you believed. And then you are opened up to see things. So I became a leader because of that. And so in my jobs, I would take, I would be an employee at jobs, but I would be a leader in them. And I would try to be the most valuable employee that I possibly could, because I had a respect for the person that was running that company, because I saw my dad running the company. I saw my grandfathers, my uncles, they all had their own businesses. And I saw them, what they did. And I saw the struggles they would go through with employees sometimes. And I just thought I would never want to put them in that position. So anybody that I ever worked for, I went hard. I hustled, and I did more than I was paid for. And that's a lesson too, just in general, man. Like you should always try to be underpaid for what you do. And I don't mean by going and taking a job that somebody's like ripping you off, but whatever they agree to, do more than is expected of you. And that's what I did. And then it came to a point where I was just, my leadership lid, like, John Maxwell's law of the lid is that usually you're not going to get somebody that has a higher leadership lid to come work for you. It's going to take a special circumstance. And my leadership lid just started going beyond the people that I was working for. And I'm humbly saying this, by the way, because they just didn't take pride in developing their leadership skills, or thought that they were complacent and comfortable, and it is what it is. But I just want to continue to expand, and I'm never going to stop learning. And I wanted to continue to go up, not just in career, but in my leadership lid, and bust through ceilings. And I'm still on this 43 years old. I'm on this journey, like this wild journey to see how far I could take this thing. And so, that's where it started. And I just love it. I love building people, and I have the ability to build people in my businesses and change people's lives. And really, it's not me changing it. It's me just basically influencing and showing people the greatness they have inside of them, and then putting them on track. And they're the ones that change their lives.
I'm a big believer in over delivering on everything. And like you, I've never worked for anyone. I've only run my own businesses, obviously with how I was thrown into everything, but I had to step into a leadership role from the get-go. But when I backtrack all of the things that I've done, I naturally rise to the top. I remember when I first joined my first BNI group, which I didn't even know anything about BNI. I was in my mid-20s, and I was looking to expand my personal training business and my gym. And within 6 months of joining that group, I was promoted to president of the chapter. And they actually, which they don't usually do, you get chapter president for a year. They actually wanted me to stay on for a second term because of my leadership quality. And it's funny, after I left, after I stepped down as president, the group ended up disbanding about 2 years later. It just fell apart. And you realize that certain people are the glue of certain things. But even when I was growing my network marketing business, I became a team leader right away. And I love a leadership role, but like you, I love influencing and impacting people in a positive way to become their best. And I think it's not so much, again, underpaid, it's over delivering on the value of what you bring to the marketplace in every and all aspects is so important. And I totally agree with everything that you're saying. And so 2020 was a very interesting year for not just entrepreneurs. It was an interesting year for everyone on a personal and professional level. And we've all had to make some pivots, and 2021 is proving to be much the same, or at least the first quarter of 2021 is proving to be much the same. What has Mike had to do in 2020 to make those pivots? And again, releasing a book during a pandemic and all of the things that you've actually been continuing to move forward with. What were the biggest pivots that you had to make in 2020 that is proving to help you advance even more now that we're into 2021?
Yeah, the rocket fuel concept that I talk about is not something you do during a setback or adversity. It's all about preparation and proactiveness. And if you're reactive, your reactiveness should all be based on your preparation, basically, and knowing when to react and how to react. But you should never be in a reactionary state, and that's it. And that's what a lot of people do. They get complacent, and then something happens, and they're not prepared for it. And so I'm looking back to 2008 to answer your question. I mean, 2008 in the mortgage industry and the housing industry, there was a big collapse. And what I did back then is I really was observing. As a kid, I was observing, but I observed everything around me. I looked at the media. I looked at the politicians. I looked at my coworkers who were leaving because they couldn't be licensed, and they were required to be licensed now in the mortgage industry. And I looked at the leadership. I just looked at everything and just journaled and wrote things down and just said, hey, man, I know this is going to be something I can use later. I didn't know if it was going to be, what it was going to be, but I just knew that if I could prepare myself for the future by the experience that I was going through, then I was going to be ahead of the game. And so I did that. And for I guess that was 2008 to 2020, 12 years, right? I was just focused on building something that, no matter what we went into, it was not going to be stopped. And so I think preparation went long ways into it. But one thing that really helped us too, the company that I chose to put our division under, which Nations Lending, they got us off early with the online, the remote processes and things. And so I was already working from home prior to COVID. Most of our employees were working from home. And what it did beforehand was allow us to recruit some of the best talent in the country without having to just rely on the geographical areas our branches were in. So they did a great job in being proactive about that. And I lined myself and my team up with the right team. And so they did that. So when COVID happened, we just said, okay, don't work in the office anymore. Go to online. And then when also COVID happened, I had a meeting with my team right away when it started to come up on the news a lot. And I said, guys, listen, here's the thing, man. I don't know what the hell this thing is. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's real. But let's just assume that it's the worst thing that's ever come along. So now the thing is that there's people that talk about, man, you got to be an optimist. You got to be an optimist, man. And then there's realists and there's pessimists. And people say pessimistic is a bad thing to be because you're assuming the worst. But one thing my mentor, Grant Cardone, by the way, Grant Cardone just, he wrote the foreword for my book. And I'm very, very proud of that. And wait till you get your eyes on that. It's going to be cool. But he taught me something about this. I had an interview with him. I guess it was back in April during COVID, right when it was happening. And I said, man, what's some of the things you're hopeful or excited about right now? What do you despite all this? And he said, I don't know of anything. And I was like, what? This is Grant Cardone built this big empire, $2 billion in real estate, big influencer. And he's nothing to be excited about or optimistic about. And I was like, what the hell? So I tried to dissect that. And what I found is that although he is aiming and has big targets and big goals, he's pessimistic in the fact that he's expecting a lot of bad roadblocks, a lot of bad setbacks, a lot of bad things, a lot of money it's going to cost, a lot of resources. And that's what 10X is all about. And he's basically a pessimist when it comes to expecting how the journey's going to go. And so that way he does 10X work, prepares 10X resources and 10X finances and 10X energy and effort. And, so that's something that I got my team. I said, guys, we're going to just look, I don't know how great, how hard this is going to be, but let's just know right now that we're not going to get by with the same attitudes and same efforts that we're doing now. We got to go way harder. We have to just work our asses off. And while everybody else gets in this thing and sees it and they start to panic, they start staying at home and they're worried about the kids and this and that and all this, what's going to happen to the business? No. We're not going to do that. We're going to bear down, and then we're going to blow past everyone else. And that's what we did. And I just kept preaching that and preaching that. And, but that preparation from back in 2008 and what Grant told me, which is what the 10X rule is all about and what Rocket Fuel was inspired by, it all makes sense. And you're trying to set a goals and targets, Scott, out there, really big and massive. And that's not what it's all about, just that, 10Xing your goals. But it's also about 10Xing your anticipation of bad things to come. And then from there, you know that you're going to be prepared to go after it, and you're going to guarantee your success by doing that. So,
yeah, I when you fail to prepare, you're preparing to fail. And, that's the old adage. And you do have to, it's not about, again, I'm with you. It's not about being a pessimist. I'm realistic that, listen, shit's going on and it's still going on. And we don't know how long it's going to be. We can watch or listen to whatever we want, but it's up to us to take the action or not take the action. And that's going to determine if something actually comes from it. So as people are listening to this, Mike, what's your best piece of advice to that person that they have rocket fuel inside of them? They have something from their past or even presently right now that if they just tapped into it and used it the right way as rocket fuel, it would propel them to all new heights. What's your best piece of advice to that person to tap into it, to start using it for good and not for holding them back?
There's a company that makes basketball shoes and running shoes, and they have a slogan. It's just do it. Just do it. Like I'm making you aware of it. If you're listening to this, I made you aware of it. So at this point now, you need to do it and take action. So, but also understand something. All the stuff that's happened to us over the lives, or all of our lives, and all the beliefs of other people and the actions of, from other people towards us has caused us sometimes to close off and not be ourselves. And I'll give you a little story real quick here. I've always had this animal and energy inside of me. I've always had this thing, and I don't know exactly where it came from, but for a period of time, I went through some phases, probably when I started moving out of my dad's into other schools, and then from there to college and jobs around people that are just broken people, man. I mean, bottom line, broken mindset of people and all that. And you're around these people and you start to think, am I crazy or are they crazy? And then as soon as you start to think that, then you start self-internalizing, self-analyzing, and you don't need to be doing that. As long as you are already up here on your tone level, like high, like enthusiastic, those people need to self-analyze. You don't need to change yourself. You need to extrovert more. But what happens is most of us will introvert and we'll get into a cage. And we're then, before it's too late, we're stuck in a cage. And you ever see those dogs on those pet adoption shows? And you don't even need to hear the sad music to make it sad. Like you turn the music off and watch the video and the dog's just sad. And it looks like their soul's taken from them. So what you need to do is you need to just, I'm going to do this right now, guys. Everybody that's listening and you feel like that, I want to give you validation to unleash the chains, open the cage up, and let your freaking animal out, man. That's what it's all about. Let the animal out. I'm giving you validation to do that. Let your inside animal be yourself. Be the person that you were meant to be. And if you were a person one time and sometimes something's happening to you and you just change and you're cocooned now, whatever you want to call it, just let go and let it out. And I promise you, you start living and don't give a shit what people think. Don't care what they think. Just do what you want to do because life's too short. Live the life. Every day you wake up is one more day that you get to actually be you. And just, man, I mean, I feel so bad that I went through that myself, and I don't want anybody to feel like that. And one thing Grant did for me was he gave me that validation to unleash the animal inside of me, man. And that's something that I want everybody to feel. So I want to share that because that to me, like that's a hero. And I want to be a hero to all of you.
Love that. And, I always tell people, this is something that Earl Nightingale said very early on. He said, the thoughts and opinions of others do not have to become who you are. And how other people think or feel about you or even say about you, it doesn't matter. That's their opinion, not yours. And that's something everyone knows deep down inside who they are, what they stand for, and what they're doing. And that's what you need to stick to. So, Mike, before I get to my final question and close us out, how can people find out more about you and all that you have going on? Where can they get the book? How can they listen to the podcast? And where do you want to direct people?
If you go to Mike C-Roc with no K, Mike C-Roc with no K, MikeCroc.com/book, MikeCroc.com/book. Go there, get the Rocket Fuel book. You'll get 30-day access to my new Rocket Fuel program to show you how to proactively turn all setbacks, letdowns into rocket fuel for your future, become unstoppable. But if you go there, then you get, you'll get on the list and everything, and you'll keep up with me. But also on Instagram, Scott, I'm on Instagram. I love Instagram at Mikey C-Roc. If you go there, engage with me, shoot me a DM. Let me know you heard me from, Scott's show here. And I'd love to engage with you. And I'm going to continue to put out free content there just to change people's lives, man.
Love it. And again, for all the listeners, all that information of how to connect with Mike will be in the show notes. So please definitely take advantage and reach out to him. So Mike, final question before we cut off. What does success truly mean to you?
Bottom line is, when you set a grand vision and goal, success to me is the incremental steps that you're getting there. Every time you move closer to that grand ideal life or goal, that to me is success.
Love that. And it's always about taking those steps forward, whether it's a millimeter or a mile, as long as you're moving forward.
Scott, thrust is a must. That's my saying, by the way. Thrust is a must.
Love that. Well, I'll use that as a quote tile for this episode. Thrust is a must, and that's awesome. So, Mike, thank you again so much. Again, grateful for you and having the ability to come on your show. And I highly, highly endorse and recommend Mike's podcast. Definitely check it out. He always puts little clips up on his IG story and channel, but definitely head over to iTunes. I'll put a link to his podcast also in the show notes so you guys can check it out as well. So, Mike, thank you so much again for being here today.
Thank you, Scott, man. I appreciate you, brother.
Absolutely. Appreciate you too. So guys, again, as always, head over to iTunes, leave a rating and review. Let us know in that review, what were your biggest takeaways from this episode? What was the biggest aha moment? What was the biggest thing that Mike and I spoke about that pushed that needle forward for you? Because again, thrust is a must when you're looking to live the best life possible. So guys, please enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you so much again for checking out today's episode. And if you are listening through iTunes, Spotify, wherever you are, please leave me a rating and review. Let me know what you loved, what you would like to see improved, or ideas you have for future episodes. And if you are interested in taking your business to the next level, don't hesitate to go to my website, www.scottaaron.net, where you can schedule a free discovery call with me, where I can learn more about you, your business, what you're struggling with, and how we can work together. And don't forget to check out my wife, Nancy, and mine, our free community on Facebook called LinkedIn Leads for Life. We would love to see you in there. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you everyone for your support. Grateful for each and every one of you.